I came home to find all my things stuffed into garbage bags by the gate. My mom stood there with my siblings and said, "You're 25. Get out now." I didn't say a word. I just smiled, got in my car, and drove away. 6 months later, I got 60 messages from her, all asking the same question. Where are you? Imagine landing after your biggest career triumph, buzzing with pride, only to find your entire life, everything you own, crammed into garbage bags, piled like a cruel monument at your own front gate. And then, my mother, arms crossed, flanked by my siblings, looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're 25 now. It's time for you to get out." That moment, that shocking, humiliating betrayal, shattered everything I thought I knew about family. Growing up in suburban Chicago, life was never simple, especially after my dad passed when I was just 7. My older siblings, Jackson, Natalie, and Kevin, had years more with him, but I barely remembered his face without a photograph. Dad's death changed my mom, Sandra. The warm, laughing woman I vaguely recalled hardened, measuring love by achievement, sacrifice, and obedience. "I gave up everything for you kids" became her mantra, always followed by a stinging, "The least you could do is." As the youngest, I got some benefits, better financial footing for braces in college, but I also bore the brunt of her emotional exhaustion. She micromanaged my life, from friends to my college major. My siblings, her golden children, followed her script. Jackson, the surgeon; Natalie, the corporate attorney; Kevin, the engineer. They married her approved partners, bought homes in her preferred neighborhoods, and had kids on her timeline. They were her proof of excellent parenting. Then there was me. I dared to study marketing, not medicine. I took a job at a startup, not an established firm. And at 25, I was stubbornly single. By most standards, I wasn't rebellious, but in our family, I was the black sheep. "When will you get a real job?" Mom would ask over Sunday dinner. Natalie was making 6 figures at your age. Every word was a jab. Despite the tension, I lived at home after college. It was practical. My entry-level marketing job paid modestly, and Chicago rent was insane. Living with Mom let me save and tackle student loans. "You can stay as long as you need," she'd said initially. Family supports family. But her support came with invisible chains. I paid rent, bought groceries, did most of the chores. I was her chauffeur, her tech support, and her captive audience for endless complaints about neighbors, coworkers, and, sometimes, my siblings, though never to their faces. My siblings were just as complicated. To them, I was still the baby. My opinions held no weight. Any family disagreement, and they'd unite with Mom, my perspective dismissed as immature or uninformed. "You'll understand when you have more life experience," Jackson would condescendingly say, ignoring my 4 years of living alone in college and my international travels, experiences he never had. As I neared my mid-20s, the struggle between independence and family duty became unbearable. My friends were living their own lives, dating freely, staying out late without check-in texts. I envied their freedom, trapped by both finances and a suffocating sense of obligation. Then came an opportunity that felt like a lifeline. My marketing firm landed a huge client, and, because I had the freshest ideas, I was chosen to present our campaign in New York. My first business trip. My first solo presentation to a major client. Potentially, my first real career break. I'd spent weeks preparing, rehearsing until I could recite the pitch in my sleep. The night before my flight, Mom was distracted, barely acknowledging my nervous excitement. "I'll be back late Friday night," I reminded her, washing dishes. "Fine," she mumbled, eyes glued to her phone. "Jackson and Natalie are coming over Saturday with the kids. Make sure you're here to help." I swallowed my disappointment. I'd hoped this professional milestone would finally earn her approval, prove my path was viable, and show her I was an adult, not a disappointing child. The New York presentation was a dream. The clients loved our campaign, greenlighting a 7-figure budget. My boss took me to dinner, talking about a potential promotion and raise. "You have real talent, Leah," he said. "I see a bright future for you with us." Those words, more than the expensive wine, warmed me to my core. Finally, someone saw my potential, not just my perceived shortcomings. I bought small gifts for everyone. A silk scarf for Mom, craft beers for my brothers, a designer pen for Natalie. Little peace offerings, hoping to bridge the chasm between us. On the flight home, I pictured sharing my triumph at the family gathering. Maybe Jackson would stop asking about my stable job. Maybe Natalie would quit sending me admin job postings. Maybe Kevin would stop suggesting a master's degree. And Mom? I fantasized about her beaming with pride, telling her friends about my accomplishment, finally seeing me as a success, just on my own terms. Little did I know, that fantasy of family validation would shatter within minutes of my return, replaced by a nightmare I could never have anticipated. Chicago's spring afternoon was glorious, as my rideshare left O'Hare. Sunshine after weeks of rain felt like a good omen. My gifts, wrapped in tissue, were safely in my carry-on. The signed contract, promising a department budget boost and a career jump, was in my laptop bag. I texted Mom, but no response. Not unusual, but a small twinge of unease sparked. Communication during the trip had been minimal, one-word replies or silence. Halfway home, Jackson's number flashed on my phone. My oldest brother rarely called directly. "Hello," I answered, curiosity mixing with apprehension. "Where are you right now?" His tone was clipped, professional, the one he used with difficult patience. "In a car, heading home. Landed early. Is everything okay?" A silence stretched, my heartbeat accelerating. "Mom wants to talk to you when you get home." "We all do." Alarm replaced confusion. "Is someone sick?" "Just get home, Leah." He hung up. No explanation. My mind raced. Nieces, nephews? Mom ill? A distant relative? Nothing explained the coldness, though we all. I called Natalie, then Kevin. No answer. I messaged the group chat, asking what was happening. Read receipts. No replies. Mom's last message from the night before, "We need to discuss some changes when you return," now felt chilling. The driver noticed my agitation. "Everything all right, miss?" "Just family stuff," I grimaced. As we turned onto my street, the neighborhood was peaceful. Kids played, couples walked. Then I saw them. Black garbage bags, at least a dozen lined our driveway. Funeral monuments for my possessions. Four figures stood in the yard, stiff and confrontational. Mom in her gardening apron, Jackson in weekend clothes, Natalie in impeccable business casual, Kevin in his favored university sweatshirt. "You can stop here," I told the driver, my voice distant. I paid, grabbed my luggage, and stepped out. The driver pulled away, leaving me exposed. None of them moved to help. None smiled. "What is going on?" I asked, approaching slowly. "What are all these bags?" Mom stepped forward, her mouth a thin line. "Your things are packed. It's time for you to find your own place." The world tilted. "What? Why? We never discussed this." "You are 25 years old," she continued, ignoring me. "All your siblings were on their own by 23. You have overstayed your welcome." Jackson nodded. "It's time you learned responsibility." The irony almost made me laugh. I paid rent, did chores, worked full-time, advanced my career. I was responsible. "This is insane," I said, looking from face to face, searching for warmth, for an explanation. "I just got back from a business trip. I have nowhere to go." "You should have planned better," Natalie interjected, checking her watch as if my homelessness was making her late. "We all managed to find apartments right after college." With parental co-signing and down payment assistance, I retorted, anger finally cutting through the shock, and significantly higher starting salaries in established professions. "Excuses," Kevin muttered, shaking his head. "You've had 3 years to figure this out." I turned to Mom. "Why no? Why today, without any warning?" "I've been hinting for months that you should move on," she replied. "You chose not to listen." "Hinting is not the same as giving notice." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "Normal people discuss major decisions. They don't pack someone's belongings while they're away and ambush them upon return." "Don't raise your voice to your mother," Jackson warned, stepping closer. The absurdity of it all hit me. I was being lectured about respect while being treated with absolute disrespect. They'd waited until I was gone to evict me without warning. "What is this really about?" I asked, remembering whispers about property values. "Are you selling the house?" A flicker of surprise crossed Mom's face. "My financial decisions are none of your concern. They are if they involve making me homeless with no notice." "You're not homeless," Natalie said with exaggerated patience. "You have a job. Get an apartment like everyone else. Without references? Without time to save for a security deposit? Without warning." I looked at each of them. "Do you hear yourselves? Who treats family this way?" "We're doing this for your own good," Mom insisted. "You need to stand on your own 2 feet." "By cutting them out from under me?" I countered. A neighbor walking his dog slowed, openly staring. My humiliation deepened. "This is ridiculous," I said, lowering my voice. "Let's go inside and discuss this like adults." "There's nothing to discuss," Mom replied. Without any input from me, I seethed, the person most affected. "Your input has been your continued failure to launch," Kevin said. "We've all discussed it and agree this is necessary." That statement hit me like a physical blow. They had discussed me, judged me, decided my fate without my knowledge. The gifts I'd brought felt like pathetic bribes for affection already withdrawn. "When did you pack all this?" I asked, gesturing to the bags. "Yesterday," Mom answered. Jackson and Kevin helped. The timing wasn't accidental. They'd waited until I was away, unable to defend myself. "And what am I supposed to do now? Where am I supposed to go tonight?" "You should have friends you can stay with," Natalie suggested, her tone implying I probably didn't. "Or get a hotel," Jackson added. "You just got back from New York. Surely you can afford a room." They didn't know the company paid for my accommodations, or that my modest savings were for planned moving costs. Can I at least come inside and sort through these bags? I pleaded. I doubt you knew what was important when you packed. Everything is there, Mom said firmly. Your room has been cleared. The finality of it made my stomach clench. They had erased me from the house as if I'd never belonged. White-hot anger surged, burning away the shock and hurt. 25 years of feeling less than, of chasing approval that never came, of walking on eggshells in my own home. It all culminated in this moment of utter betrayal. How dare you? I said, my voice low and trembling. How dare all of you stand there acting righteous while doing something so cruel? Dramatic as always, Natalie muttered. Dramatic? I laughed without humor. You ambush me after a business trip, throw my possessions in garbage bags, and tell me I'm homeless effective immediately. But I'm the dramatic one. We knew you'd react this way, Jackson said. This is why we did it while you were gone. You mean why you waited until I wasn't here to defend myself? I shot back. That's not responsible adult behavior. That is cowardly. Mom's face flushed. Don't speak to us that way. After everything I've done for you, what exactly have you done for me lately? I cut her off. She charged me rent, made me do chores, criticized my career, compared me to my siblings. You ungrateful little ungrateful. I roared. I've been nothing but grateful. I've thanked you, helped you, supported you financially and emotionally. I've swallowed every criticism, endured every comparison, and still showed up with love and respect. The facade of family unity cracked as Mom turned to Jackson. I told you she would make this difficult. Make what difficult, exactly? I pressed. Why no? Why the urgency? Why garbage bags instead of proper boxes? Why the audience? I gestured to my siblings. Kevin shifted uncomfortably, the first sign of dissent. Mom is selling the house, he admitted. Kevin. Natalie hissed. She deserves to know, he replied. The truth emerged in fragments. Mom had a great offer on the house, but the buyers wanted immediate occupancy. Instead of discussing it, she and my siblings decided my portion of any inheritance would be reduced to compensate for my extended stay. So, this is about money, I said, the pieces clicking into place. You're pushing me out to sell the house, and you don't want me to have a claim on my share. You haven't contributed to the mortgage, Natalie argued. I've paid rent for 3 years. I countered. Where did that money go if not toward household expenses? Your rent barely covered your food and utilities, Mom dismissed. And what about Dad's will? I asked. He left the house to all of us. I may have been young, but I remember the lawyer explaining that. Uncomfortable glances passed between them. They'd hoped I wouldn't remember or wouldn't assert my rights. You'd see your own mother? Jackson asked, incredulously. You'd disinherit your own daughter? I fired back. We were at an impasse, standing in the front yard, neighbors openly staring. 3 years of pent-up resentment boiled over. You have never respected my choices or seen me as an equal adult, I said, my voice raw. You've used me as free labor, emotional support, and a convenient target for your disappointment. And now you discard me when it's financially convenient. No one denied it. Their silence confirmed every insecurity I'd ever harbored about my place in this family. In that moment of clarity, I made a decision that would alter the course of my life. I walked to my car, thankfully parked on the street. What are you doing? Mom demanded. Leaving, I replied simply. Isn't that what you want? One by one, I loaded the garbage bags into my hatchback. My entire life, clothes, books, electronics, mementos, packed without care. When the car was full, I turned to face them one last time. They stood together, a unit from which I'd always been excluded. You know, I said, a soft, bitter laugh escaping me. I just landed the biggest client in our firm's history. I was about to get promoted. I brought gifts for all of you to celebrate. I actually thought you would be proud of me. Leah, Kevin began, a hint of regret in his voice. No, I cut him off. You've all made your position clear. I will not stay where I am not wanted or valued. To their visible surprise, I smiled. Not from happiness, but from the sudden, profound weightlessness of having nothing left to lose. Goodbye, I said, getting into my car. I hope the money is worth it. I drove away without looking back, tears blurring my vision as familiar streets suddenly felt foreign. My phone buzzed with messages, probably my family realizing the implications. I ignored them all. With no plan and nowhere to go, I called the only person I trusted completely, my college roommate, Zoe. Through choked sobs, I explained. Come here now, she said without hesitation. You can stay as long as you need. Zoe lived in an apartment 30 minutes away with her boyfriend, Tyler. When I arrived, they helped unload my car without judgment or questions, setting up their spare room as my temporary sanctuary. That first night was the lowest point. Curled on an unfamiliar bed, surrounded by garbage bags I couldn't bear to unpack, I cycled through shock, grief, and incandescent rage. My phone kept buzzing, and Zoe eventually convinced me to read the messages. They were exactly as I expected, Mom insisting I was overreacting, Jackson lecturing me about responsibility, Natalie sending links to apartment listings well outside my budget. Only Kevin expressed regret about the method, not the decision itself. These people are toxic, Zoe declared after reading them. You need space from all of them. They're still my family, I said weakly. Family doesn't treat each other this way, Tyler interjected. What they did was emotional abuse. Though the term felt extreme, the validation from outside perspectives helped me see clearly. What had happened wasn't normal. It wasn't my fault. And, perhaps most importantly, I didn't have to accept it. That night, I made two decisions. I would build a new life, entirely independent from my family. And I would never again measure my worth through their approval. As I finally drifted to sleep in the early hours, a strange sense of possibility flickered beneath the pain. For the first time in my adult life, I was truly free to define myself on my own terms. The first week was a blur of practical challenges. Zoe and Tyler were amazing, insisting I stay as long as needed. But their one-bedroom apartment was too small for 3 adults long-term. Their generosity bought me time to search for housing without rushing into a bad situation. During lunch breaks, I scoured listings, quickly realizing Chicago's rental market was even more cutthroat than I'd feared. Most places demanded proof of income 3 times the rent, perfect credit, first and last month's rent, plus a security deposit and landlord references, none of which I had. My modest savings, which had seemed substantial at home, barely covered the upfront costs. After 10 days, I found a tiny studio in a less-than-desirable neighborhood. The landlord was willing to accept a larger security deposit in lieu of rental history. It was nothing like the comfortable home I'd left, paint peeled, appliances were ancient, strange noises filtered through thin walls, but it was mine. A space where no one could pack my belongings or question my choices. Moving in highlighted how little I actually owned. My family had packed my personal items, but none of the household essentials. No dishes, no towels, no cleaning supplies, no furniture beyond my bedroom set. We'll have a housewarming, Zoe declared, helping me unpack clothes into the single closet. Everyone brings something useful instead of decorative crap. True to her word, she organized a small gathering of friends. They arrived bearing secondhand furniture, kitchen essentials, and home goods. By evening's end, my apartment transformed from an empty shell into a basic, functional living space. It's not much, I apologized. It's a beginning, my friend Amber corrected. And you did it without their help. Financial reality hit hard. After rent, utilities, groceries, and transportation, my previously adequate salary left almost nothing. I created spreadsheets, meticulously meal planned, and learned which grocery stores offered the best deals. Work became my anchor. The Monday after being forced out, I arrived early, throwing myself into finalizing the New York client campaign, channeling all my emotional turmoil into creative energy. My boss noticed. You've been putting in serious hours, he commented 2 weeks later. The New York presentation was excellent, and your follow-up has been impeccable. Thank you, I replied, simply, not mentioning the personal chaos behind my dedication. We're restructuring the team, he continued. I'd like you to lead the digital marketing division. It comes with a 15% raise and more responsibility. The promotion couldn't have come at a better time. The extra income eased the constant financial anxiety. More importantly, it validated my career path, the very one my family had dismissed as inadequate. While my professional life flourished, I struggled emotionally. Nightmares about homelessness disrupted my sleep. Unexpected sounds in my building triggered panic. Trust issues colored my interactions. You should talk to someone professional, Zoe suggested. Therapy is expensive, I countered. So is the emotional toll of trauma, she replied. Your new job has health insurance. She helped me find a therapist specializing in family estrangement and adult children of controlling parents. Our first session opened floodgates. What your family did was not normal or acceptable, my therapist affirmed. Evicting someone without notice is legally questionable, even with family. Doing it while you were away shows premeditation and a fundamental lack of respect. Weekly sessions helped me recognize patterns of emotional manipulation that had defined my family relationships. I learned about scapegoating, golden children, and conditional love. Slowly, I began rebuilding my sense of self-worth, separate from family approval. Practical skills became another focus of my new independence. Living at home, I hadn't needed to handle much. Now I taught myself basic plumbing, how to jumpstart a car, simple cooking techniques, and home repairs. Each new skill felt like a tiny victory, proof I could survive and even thrive on my own. 3 months after moving out, I ran into Kevin at a coffee shop downtown. It was accidental, uncomfortable, and revealing. You look good, he said awkwardly. How are you? I'm doing well, I replied, truthfully. Working a lot. I got promoted. That's great. He hesitated. Mom's been asking about you. Has she? Strange way of showing concern, cutting off all contact. You cut off contact, he corrected. After being thrown out with no notice, yes, I did. We stood in uncomfortable silence, holding coffee cups like shields. She wants you to come to Sunday dinner, he finally said. To talk things through. On what terms? I asked. Does she acknowledge what she did was wrong? Is she apologizing? Or does she expect me to pretend nothing happened and resume the same dysfunctional relationship? His expression answered my questions. There would be no acknowledgement, no apology, no change. I can't do that, Kevin. I'm not the same person who left 3 months ago. She's still your mother, he insisted. Yes, I agreed. And I'm still her daughter. That didn't stop her from treating me like I meant nothing. As we parted ways, he seemed troubled. Perhaps seeing our family dynamic from a new perspective. That brief encounter strengthened my resolve to maintain my boundaries, even as it reopened barely healed wounds. The path forward was neither straight nor easy. Some days, I felt empowered by my independence. Others, I crumbled under the weight of estrangement from my only family. But slowly, deliberately, I built a life that belonged wholly to me, furnished with my choices, governed by my values. It wasn't the life I'd imagined, but it was becoming one I could be proud of. As 3 months stretched into 4, then 5, a remarkable transformation took place. The constant anxiety that had characterized my first weeks of independence gradually subsided, replaced by a growing confidence. My promotion proved a professional turning point. Leading the digital marketing division meant higher visibility and direct client contact. I assembled an effective team, implemented new strategies, and delivered consistent results. Your campaign increased engagement by 40%, our CEO noted during a quarterly review. That's impressive work, Leah. The acknowledgement, delivered in front of the entire leadership team, felt more validating than any family approval I had ever sought. My colleagues saw my value without the distorting lens of family history or comparison. With financial stability came practical improvements. I traded my unreliable used car for a newer model. When my lease approached renewal, I found a nicer apartment in a safer neighborhood, with more natural light and a small balcony for herbs. Furnishing my new space became an exercise in self-discovery. Free from my mother's aesthetic preferences or my siblings' opinions, I explored my own taste, discovering a love for mid-century modern design, bold colors, and functional spaces. Each piece, new or secondhand, reflected my emerging identity. This place feels like you, Zoe commented when she visited. Your old room never did. She was right. This apartment, though rented, was the first home that truly expressed who I was becoming. Social connections expanded beyond my small circle of college friends. I joined a book club, volunteered at a food bank, and accepted invitations to work events. I met people who knew me only as I was now, not as the family disappointment or the baby youngest sibling. Among these new acquaintances was Daniel, a graphic designer who collaborated with my team. Our professional relationship evolved into friendship, then cautious romance. Unlike previous relationships, conducted under my mother's scrutinizing gaze, this connection developed at its own pace, free from external pressure. Tell me about your family, Daniel asked on our third date. That's complicated, I replied, sharing the condensed version. His response was refreshingly straightforward. They sound toxic. I'm sorry you experienced that. No defense of family loyalty. No suggestion I must have done something. Just simple validation. Daniel's healthy family, with their respectful disagreements and unconditional support, provided a window into what functional family dynamics could look like. The contrast with my own was both painful and enlightening. My therapy sessions evolved from crisis management to deeper healing. With professional guidance, I examined childhood patterns, recognized unhealthy coping mechanisms, and developed strategies for setting boundaries in all relationships. You've made remarkable progress, my therapist observed. You're breaking generational patterns. The comment struck me deeply. Perhaps the most meaningful victory wasn't external success, but internal change, the ability to recognize and reject the dysfunctional dynamics that had shaped my family for generations. This psychological shift manifested in unexpected ways. I became more assertive at work, proposing bold campaigns and confidently defending my ideas. I developed clearer boundaries with friends. I pursued interests I'd abandoned because they didn't meet family approval, rediscovering my love for photography and creative writing. I also made the difficult decision to block all communication from my mother and older siblings. After months of texts, ranging from guilt-inducing to openly hostile, I recognized that each interaction reset my emotional healing. Kevin remained the exception. His messages had evolved from family pressure tactics to genuine, if awkward, attempts at independent connection. 5 months after being forced out, I attended a marketing conference where I unexpectedly reconnected with Mrs. Reynolds, my high school journalism teacher. She had always encouraged my writing and creative thinking when other adults focused solely on my academic performance relative to my siblings. Leah Harrison, how wonderful to see you, she greeted me warmly. Are you still in marketing? Our conversation revealed she had always seen potential in me that my family had missed or dismissed. Her belief in my abilities had been genuine, not conditional, a rare experience in my formative years. "You always had a unique perspective," she told me. "I'm not surprised you found success on your own terms." That chance meeting inspired me to reach out to others experiencing family alienation or struggling with independence. I started a blog, sharing practical advice for young adults establishing themselves without family support, covering budgeting to emotional resilience. The blog connected me to an online community with similar experiences. Comments and messages poured in, finding validation in my story and hope in my progress. What began as personal catharsis evolved into a meaningful platform for mutual support. "Your post about holiday coping strategies literally got me through Christmas," one reader wrote. "For the first time, I didn't feel guilty about protecting my peace. Through helping others, I continued my own healing." The blog created space to process my experiences, transformed painful memories into useful lessons, and surrounded me with a community who understood without explanation. As the 6-month mark of my forced independence approached, I realized the family who had discarded me had unintentionally given me the greatest gift, the opportunity to discover my strength, reshape my identity, and build a life aligned with my authentic self. The journey had been painful, but the destination was proving worth every difficult step. Exactly 6 months after finding my belongings in garbage bags, my phone started buzzing. Messages from my mother flooded in, 1, then 5, then dozens. By evening, I'd received 60 texts, ranging from accusations to pleas. "Where are you? Why won't you answer after everything I've done for you? I need to talk to you. This is an emergency. Please call me." The final message, sent at 11:30 p.m., struck a different tone. "I made a mistake. I need your help." Against my therapist's advice and my own better judgment, I read them all. Something had clearly happened. Something significant enough to break through my mother's pride and denial. Despite everything, concern flickered beneath my carefully constructed defenses. I called Kevin the next morning, choosing the sibling who had shown at least minimal regret. "What's going on with Mom?" I asked. His heavy sigh came through the phone. "She lost everything." The story emerged in fragments, each more unbelievable than the last. Mom had indeed sold the family home, receiving a substantial sum that should have secured her retirement. Instead of investing wisely, she had entrusted the entire amount to a financial advisor introduced by a church acquaintance. "It was a scam," Kevin explained. "The guy disappeared with her money and at least 10 other victims." "That's terrible," I said, genuinely sympathetic despite our history. "But why contact me now? Where are Jackson and Natalie?" Another pause. "They're not speaking to her." "What? Why?" "She promised each of us a portion of the house proceeds. Jackson already put a deposit on a vacation property based on that promise. Natalie had planned a home renovation. And you?" "I was more cautious," he admitted. "But I'm still angry. She made decisions without consulting any of us, then lost everything." The irony was not lost on me. My mother had excluded me from decisions about my own living situation, and now she felt the sting of similar treatment from her other children. "There's more," Kevin continued reluctantly. "She has nowhere to live. The new owners took possession last week. She's been staying in a motel, but her funds are running out. Where does she expect to go?" "She mentioned your new apartment." A cold wave of disbelief washed over me. After throwing me out without notice, my mother's plan was to move in with me? The audacity was breathtaking. "That's not happening," I said firmly. "I know," Kevin agreed, surprising me. "That would be unreasonable after everything. But she needs something, Leah. She's still our mother." The situation forced me to confront complex questions about obligation, forgiveness, and boundaries. What did I owe the woman who had raised but also betrayed me? Could I help without sacrificing the healthy independence I had built? Was it possible to show compassion without enabling toxic patterns? After consulting with my therapist, I agreed to meet my mother at a coffee shop, a neutral location where I could leave if necessary. Daniel offered to wait nearby, providing both moral support and an escape plan if things became too intense. My mother looked diminished when she arrived, her confident posture replaced by a nervous hunch. The designer clothes and perfect makeup that had been her uniform were exchanged for casual wear and minimal cosmetics. She had aged years and months. "Thank you for coming," she began, hands clutching her coffee cup. "I didn't think you would." "I almost didn't," I replied honestly. We sat in uncomfortable silence, the weight of our history pressing down between us. "I lost everything," she finally said. "The house, the money, everything. Kevin told me. Jackson and Natalie won't speak to me. They say I betrayed them." I nodded, acknowledging her pain without accepting responsibility for it. "I need help, Leah." Her voice cracked. "I have nowhere to go." The request hung in the air, unspoken but clear. She expected me, the child she had discarded, to rescue her. 6 months earlier, I might have agreed immediately, desperate for her approval, a chance to prove my worth. Now, I saw the situation with painful clarity. Do you understand what you did to me? I asked quietly. She blinked, clearly unprepared. I was trying to help you become independent by throwing me out without warning. I cut her off. By packing my things in garbage bags while I was away? By ambushing me with the entire family as witnesses to my humiliation. I may have handled it poorly, she conceded, but my intentions were good. Your intentions? I laughed without humor. You sold the house without telling me. You planned to reduce my inheritance. You treated me like an inconvenience rather than your daughter. Tears filled her eyes. I made mistakes. Yes, I agreed. You did. And now you are facing consequences, just as I had to face the consequences of your actions 6 months ago. So you won't help me? Indignation crept into her tone. After everything I sacrificed raising you, I didn't say that. I corrected her. I am willing to help, but on my terms, not yours. I outlined the boundaries I had carefully considered with my therapist. I would help her find affordable senior housing and contribute a modest monthly amount toward her expenses. I would not allow her to move in with me, borrow money directly, or resume the controlling relationship of the past. That's your idea of help, she asked incredulously. That is what I can offer while still respecting myself, I replied. Take it or leave it. Our conversation continued for nearly 2 hours, cycling through accusations, justifications, tears, and tentative steps toward understanding. My mother struggled to accept that our relationship had fundamentally changed, that her authority had been permanently diminished by her own actions. I never thought you would be so hard, she said at one point. I never thought I would need to be, I countered. But here we are. By the end, we reached an uneasy agreement. I would research housing options and help with the application process. She would attend family therapy sessions with me as a condition of ongoing support. Neither of us was entirely satisfied, but it was a starting point that maintained my boundaries while acknowledging our connection. As we prepared to leave, she asked the question that revealed how little she had understood my journey. When will things go back to normal between us? I looked at her directly, with compassion but unwavering honesty. They will not. That version of our relationship is gone. We might build something new, something healthier, but we cannot go backward. Her face showed the reality of permanent change finally sinking in. In that moment, I felt an unexpected shift within myself. The anger that had fueled me for months didn't disappear, but it loosened its grip on my heart. I could see my mother not as the all-powerful figure of my childhood, but as a flawed human whose poor choices had cost her dearly. That recognition didn't excuse her actions or erase the harm she caused. It simply allowed me to respond from a place of strength rather than reactive pain. I could offer appropriate help without sacrificing the healthy life I had built, a balance that would have been impossible 6 months earlier. As I walked away from the coffee shop, Daniel fell into step beside me. How did it go? Exactly as hard as I expected, I replied, but also necessary. Are you okay? He asked. I considered the question carefully. Not yet, but I will be. That evening, I received messages from both Jackson and Natalie for the first time in months. Word of my meeting with Mom had spread, along with my limited offer of assistance. Their texts contained no apologies for their role in my eviction, only thinly veiled attempts to gauge my mother's financial situation and my involvement in it. I left both messages unanswered, recognizing them as continuations of unhealthy patterns rather than genuine attempts at reconciliation. Some relationships could potentially heal with time and effort. Others might need to remain distant for my well-being. Learning to distinguish between them was part of my ongoing growth. The family crisis that had prompted 60 desperate messages had not provided a Hollywood reconciliation or neat resolution. Instead, it had offered something more valuable, confirmation that the boundaries I had established were necessary, and the independent life I had built was worth protecting. In the weeks following our coffee shop confrontation, I helped my mother navigate the complex process of finding affordable senior housing. The assistance I provided was practical rather than financial, researching options, explaining application requirements, and occasionally driving her to appointments. Pine Meadows, the facility she eventually moved into, offered independent living apartments with optional supportive services. The modest studio unit was a significant downgrade from our family home, but it provided security, community, and a fresh start. It's small, she commented during move-in day, surveying the compact kitchen and living area. So was my first apartment, I reminded her gently. You adapt. The parallel was not lost on her. For perhaps the first time, my mother was experiencing the challenges of starting over with limited resources, the very situation she had thrust upon me without warning. Our relationship remained complicated, but the enforced distance created space for gradual healing. The weekly therapy sessions, which she attended reluctantly at first, became a structured environment to address long-standing patterns and build healthier communication. I never realized how my own upbringing affected my parenting, she admitted during one particularly breakthrough session. My mother was even more controlling than I was. Understanding the origins of her behavior didn't excuse it, but it provided context that helped me process my childhood experiences. Generational trauma had shaped our family dynamics in ways none of us had recognized. As promised, I contributed a modest monthly amount toward her expenses, carefully calculated to provide necessary support without sacrificing my own financial security. The arrangement was formalized through our therapist, establishing clear expectations and boundaries. My relationships with my siblings evolved along different paths. Kevin and I rebuilt a cautious connection, meeting occasionally for coffee and maintaining text communication. He apologized for his role in my eviction, an acknowledgement that opened the door to potential reconciliation. "I should have stood up for you," he said. "I knew it was wrong. Why didn't you?" I asked, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. "It was easier to go along," he admitted. "I've always done what Mom and Jackson thought best, even when I disagreed." His honesty revealed patterns I recognized from my own experience, the complex dynamics that had shaped all our choices and reactions. Through our conversations, we both gained insights into the family system that had constrained us in different ways. Jackson remained distant, occasionally sending impersonal holiday greetings or family announcements, but making no effort at meaningful connection. His pride prevented him from acknowledging any wrongdoing, and I no longer felt compelled to seek his approval or forgiveness. The most surprising development came from Natalie. 6 months after our mother's financial collapse, my sister experienced her own crisis when her husband announced he wanted a divorce. Suddenly single with 2 children and a lifestyle she could no longer maintain independently, she gained unexpected perspective on vulnerability and independence. "I never understood what it meant to have your life upended overnight," she confessed during an unexpected phone call. "I think I get it now." Our reconciliation was tentative and incomplete, but it opened possibilities I hadn't anticipated. We began meeting monthly for lunch, gradually rebuilding trust through small, consistent interactions rather than grand gestures or dramatic apologies. While family relationships slowly evolved, my professional life continued to flourish. 1 year after the promotion that had coincided with my forced independence, I was offered the position of Director of Marketing, overseeing all campaigns and client relationships. The new role came with a substantial salary increase, stock options, and enhanced benefits. For the first time, I felt truly financially secure, capable of building long-term stability rather than merely surviving month to month. With this security came the ability to pursue a dream I had privately harbored: home ownership. Working with a realtor, I found a small but charming condo in a diverse neighborhood with a reasonable commute downtown. The day I received the keys, I stood alone in the empty living room, overwhelmed by the significance of the moment. This space was mine, purchased with my earnings, selected by my preferences, secured by my credit and reputation. No one could pack my belongings or demand I leave. No one could diminish this achievement or take it away. I hosted a housewarming party for the friends who had supported me through the darkest periods of the previous year. Zoe and Tyler, Daniel, work colleagues, therapy group members, and even Kevin attended, filling my new home with laughter and positive energy. "I propose a toast," Zoe announced, raising her glass. "To Leah, who turned garbage bags into a gorgeous home through sheer determination and courage." The reference to how my journey had begun prompted knowing smiles rather than painful memories. What had once been traumatic had transformed into an origin story of resilience and growth. As my external circumstances stabilized, I continued the internal work of healing and self-discovery. With my therapist's encouragement, I established a small scholarship fund for young adults aging out of foster care or leaving difficult family situations. The modest grants helped recipients with security deposits, professional clothing, or educational expenses, addressing practical needs often overlooked by larger programs. "You've turned your pain into purpose," my therapist observed when I shared feedback from the first scholarship recipients. That is true healing. The observation resonated deeply. The betrayal that had initially shattered my sense of security had ultimately revealed strengths I might never have discovered otherwise. Being forced to stand alone had taught me that I could not just survive, but thrive on my own terms. My relationship with my mother would never return to what it had been, nor what she wanted it to be. The dynamics that had defined our earlier interaction were fundamentally unhealthy, rooted in control rather than respect. Instead, we were slowly building something new, a relationship between adults with clear boundaries and realistic expectations. During our last therapy session of the year, my mother said something that demonstrated how far we had both come. "I'm proud of you," she stated simply. "Not because you're successful by conventional standards, though you are. I'm proud of who you have become, how you have handled adversity, much of which I caused." The acknowledgement, offered without qualification or comparison to my siblings, was perhaps the most genuine approval she had ever expressed. It mattered to me, but in a different way than it once would have. Her validation was welcome, but no longer necessary for my sense of worth or identity. That evolution represented the most profound lesson of my journey. Love should not require perfect compliance. Achievement should not be a prerequisite for belonging. And family connections, while important, cannot define our entire sense of self. There are wounds that never completely heal, relationships that cannot be fully restored, and betrayals that permanently alter our understanding of trust and loyalty. Yet, within those painful realities lie opportunities for growth that might otherwise remain undiscovered. Sometimes, being forced out of what feels like home leads us to where we truly belong, to the person we were meant to become. What began with garbage bags at a gate ended with the keys to my own front door. Both literally and metaphorically. The journey between those points transformed not just my circumstances, but my fundamental understanding of family, independence, and self-worth. In losing what I thought I needed, I found what I truly deserved, a life defined by my choices, rather than others' expectations. Have you ever experienced a moment when family betrayal ultimately led to unexpected strength? How did you rebuild your life after a relationship breakdown? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and take care.